Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. My name is Mark R. LePage, and you are listening to Entre Architect Podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. Today, I'm talking with Janine Chastain, a dynamic force in the architecture industry. Janine is not just a business strategy consultant. She's an architect's secret weapon for transforming firms and their teams. Armed with a rare blend of architectural expertise and an MBA in entrepreneurship, Janine founded Apostrophe Consulting in 2019, quickly propelling it into a sought-after practice nationwide. She's all about propelling us, architects and AEC leaders, towards growth, focusing on practice management and fostering leadership cultures. Janine Chastain, welcome to Entre Architect Podcast.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you here, an old friend. Been collaborating and coordinating and sharing for many, many years. So it's good to have you. We've done some things in the past with Practice Disrupted, but I've never had you on the show just one-on-one. So I'm glad that we're finally doing this.
And you don't realize this, but your podcast has been in my pocket for a long time, especially before Apostrophe Consulting ever existed. And I was very interested in thinking about the business of architecture. You were absolutely one of the people that I was consuming content from, trying to figure out what does it mean to get into a career in the business of architecture. And yeah, I've been following your journey too for a long time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for following along, and I'm glad that I could be part of your story. Speaking of stories, I want to know your origin story. I don't know the details of where you started, how you started. So when did you discover your passion for architecture, and who or what inspired you to get started?
Wow, that's way back when I guess, growing up, I was always a creative person. I was in art classes and I was in a drafting class, and I was trying to figure out how to build a pathway into a creative professional field, and it resulted in me going into architecture. And through architecture school, I discovered that my true gift was really on the people side of working. So people management and leadership development. I got really involved in my architecture school in the AIAS, which is the American Institute of Architecture Students. My dean was constantly pulling me into events to help organize students and staff into these different programs, usually culture building and bringing community together behind our industry. And that launched me into a national officer role with AIAS in Washington, D.C. So right after I graduated, I moved to D.C. and worked for the AIS full-time in the AI building as president of the Student Association, which at that time was about 7,000 members across the United States. And it's a one-year position. So when it wrapped up, I found myself in the unfortunate position of the recession being fully in turmoil for everybody trying to maintain their careers. And it was really hard to enter into a career in architecture. So I landed in the Bay Area and spent 9 years out there, completely immersed in the architecture scene out there, working with some of the most talented architects in the country, and just learning about business and design and thinking and imagining about what my career might be if I could use my architecture training in a way that would allow me to work on firms and firm management and leadership development.
How did you end up in the Bay Area? Because you went to school in North Carolina, UNC Charlotte, for architecture. And I'm assuming you went to DC when you were working for AIAS. How did you end up in the Bay Area in California?
Well, my husband had just graduated with his MArch at UNC Charlotte, and we were trying to figure out where are we going to move to start our lives. I had a studio apartment in Arlington, Virginia, and I remember at that time the recession was so bad, we were sending out job applications every day, and it just was so hard to get a firm to respond. So we sat down, we made a list. It felt at the time like the options were moving back in with our parents or finding an alternative opportunity. So we wrote a list of cities we would want to live in, and the Bay Area was one of them. Well, San Francisco. And then, so we both applied to firms all over the country. And actually, I applied to one in Toronto, but we both had interviews in the Bay Area. And I think it's really because the recession hadn't hit California yet. But the funny thing is, well, I don't know, it was an experience of toughening up. By the time we got there, and we were there within a year, the recession had caught up and we both lost our jobs, right within that first year.
So you went to California for work and got jobs in architecture firms and then got laid off in the recession.
Yep.
So what did you do? What did you do once you were laid off?
Oh, it was hard. We had to get scrappy. Clark ended up working for some different architects that actually shared his time. They had like a little studio in Soma, and he would contract with each of them, not as a full-time employee, but he'd work and split his time between the three of them. And then he found a job with another architect, small firm architect later on. I ended up working for AI California for 4 months. And then later, when that contract ended, which was in Sacramento, so I was commuting from Oakland to Sacramento on the train 4 days a week. And then later, I ended up going to Architecture for Humanity as a volunteer on basically unemployment, paying my grocery bills until I couldn't do that anymore. And then I had a job offer. It got retracted because they lost the project, I think. And then I ended up getting a job in marketing. And that was my strategy. Well, it wasn't really like a long-term thought out strategy. It just kind of happened that I was well suited for marketing. That's what they needed people for, winning work. And so I got in at a firm doing marketing. And that was how my career started off, going on this alternative path into kind of like an architecture and career.
So tell me about that. So you get this job in marketing. I'm assuming some light bulbs started going off, because you said even in AIAS, you were working with culture and community and like the people side of things. And so once you sort of got that job in marketing, what's the rest of the story?
Well, at that firm, I learned from an incredible leader in business development. She is, just a lion. Like, she walks into a room and I learned so much from her because she knows how to do business development and taught me how to do it and taught me how to be brave about like not being afraid to go talk to the people that you want to have conversations with. And she was one of the few architects that took me to an interview as a marketing person. And then in that role, I started, because I was running marketing meetings, I'd sit in on the firm management meetings and run the marketing conversations. And they were so great. They let me do the retreat one year. I was often helping with the staff meetings, helping with marketing, helping to win work. But ultimately, like the market wasn't stable. And so they ran into a couple issues. And so I had to go forward into another firm, landed in another marketing role at a much larger firm, Perkins & Will, and experienced marketing at a different scale where you're really hustling for work pretty aggressively. And that taught me a lot because I think I did over 70 proposals in the short amount of time I was there. And I was going into these like really competitive interviews and helping on these proposals, helping different firms in different positions win work. I think there was like 7 different market sector leaders or 9, I can't remember. But basically in that role, I kind of got burnt out on the marketing hustle and grind. It's kind of exhausting. And I decided it was time. I wanted to go back to architecture and finish my training so that I could, potentially get licensed and just understand if that path was what I wanted to do with my career, be an architect. So at that time, then I was working full-time. I was doing my MBA part-time, and I landed back in a designer role for another firm in the Bay Area and completed my intern hours and had a great experience getting to understand what it actually means to design and build a project in very large scale commercial projects in downtown San Francisco, which was great. And then, I don't know, I was really struggling. At each firm that I went to, I was trying to figure out where I fit because I was good at marketing. I had experience in architecture, but none of those roles really fit me fully. Like, they weren't satisfying this desire I had to lead and to kind of be on the more like managerial front or the strategy side of things. I was often in the production side of things. So through the process of completing my MBA and having all of these difficult experiences along the way of trying to start up my career, I decided that I wanted to build my own business in consulting. And the thesis for my business is that there are a lot of issues in the profession that need to be solved. And basically, I'm trying to work with firm leaders and people in practice to address those issues, support them, support people who want to be in this profession, and help them so that they don't have to experience some of the hardships that I faced. I really think it has to do with how hard the recession was on my generation, that I see the profession as flawed, I guess, to say nicely.
Sure.
And that for me, the intention is to provide some relief through a willingness to talk about those issues and to think about design solutions to those issues.
You mentioned along the way of your story, MBA. That's no little thing that you should just breeze over. Right in the middle of this, you said, oh, and I was in the middle of my MBA and I went back to work. I'm like, wait a minute.
I know.
Let's rewind. So where did the inspiration for the MBA come from? Because MBA is no small little thing that you achieve. It's a huge commitment. And so what was the inspiration for the MBA?
Oh gosh, multi-layered. My dad's a business owner, so I grew up watching him run a company. And my mom too. I mean, she basically, when you run a business, when you run a small company, it's your lifestyle. And so as their daughter, I grew up watching them work hard and have that work ethic. And so I think I inherently always had that entrepreneurial spirit and didn't know otherwise until later when I worked in practice. But I think in architecture school, I knew I wanted to go get a business degree because I thought it would play to my strengths. And then after the experience of really struggling to get a job and to get my career going, I wanted the MBA because I never wanted to be in a position where I didn't have options or know how to get myself out of a difficult situation like that again. Like, it was so traumatizing to have financial and economic insecurity. I knew that the MBA, while a hefty investment, was going to be a long-term benefit for my career. And so I was working full-time and going to school part-time in the evenings, in the summer, and on the weekends. And I loved it. I absolutely enjoyed it so much. It really opened up this entire other part of my skill set, and paired with the architecture degree, which is really rooted in creativity and innovation and design thinking, having the skill set of the business training, it was like I finally felt like I had a full toolkit of all of my interests and capabilities to play with through a design lens, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Did the MBA inspire Apostrophe, or was that just part of the plan that you always knew that you wanted to have your own practice, however that turned out, and the MBA was just part of the journey?
I always knew I wanted to be a business owner since I was a very little girl. I actually, like, when I was little, one time I took like stuff out of my parents' house and like tried to set up like not a lemonade stand on the side of the street, but like just...
You sold their couch and their car.
I tried to sell their stuff, yeah. And my neighbors weren't having it, but it was really cute. So I guess I always knew that I was going to go in that direction. And it was really frustrating to me as someone who has always been interested in leadership that I was continuously being shut down from leadership opportunities because of my age and because of my lack of experience in the profession. When in my mind, and this might sound egotistical and I apologize, but I guess I just was like, no, if you invest in me, I'm either going to be one of your future partners of this firm and help you take your firm to new heights, or I'm going to go start my own. And that's probably why it was hard for me to start my career, because I had this mindset that I was going to be moving in that direction. So I guess through the MBA, I was able to sort out in my mind what my career could be, and consulting seemed like the right fit. I kind of came to terms with the idea that it wasn't going to be architecture, that if I really wanted to spend the majority of my time focused on the business and not projects, that I would need to kind of decide how to do that in a way that was going to allow me to do it.
What was that decision like when you decided, I went to architecture school, I had planned to be an architect, now I went to get my MBA, and now I have this idea, and you're starting to think about Apostrophe as a company, and it's going to be a consulting company. So therefore, you're not going to start an architecture firm. What was that decision like? What was the process of making that decision? Because you're talking to thousands of people right now. Hundreds of them are probably thinking, yeah, I can relate to that. I wish I could do that. I wish I could not go into architecture and do this other thing that's similar, right? Architecture, and you talk about that all the time. Talk to those people. How hard was that? And what did you do to get through it?
It was excruciating. I mean, first of all, I'm married to an architect and he is like really invested in this career. And it's so tangled up in my identity. I always thought coming out of school, I was like, I'm going to be an architect. And
yeah,
you're indoctrinated into this belief that that's the path and you're going to go forward on that path. And I think there was a lot of shame actually and embarrassment, or like something was wrong with me because I wasn't fitting into this profession. That when I would show up as myself, sometimes that wasn't always received well, or there weren't opportunities. I don't know. It was very emotional and I still grapple with it. It's taken several years to get to a place where I have been able to let go of the idea of being licensed. Well, I feel like the guilt's going away, but yeah, it was really hard. But I think my husband and I have had so many conversations along the way that it's not truly where my passion is. I'm not interested in going into work to solve the project. I'm interested in going into work to help the people who are building those projects succeed, because I know how hard it is to be in that role.
Yeah, you've found your purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's a very difficult thing to come to terms with when your entire life and your entire identity is moving to achieve a specific goal. And then somewhere along the line, you realize, wait a minute, that goal is not my purpose. This over here is my purpose. And I need to make a conscious decision that I'm not going to achieve that goal. I'm going to shift and go chase my purpose.
And I've had to have a lot of friends tell me, they're like, Janine, your MBA is incredible. Like, you don't need to be an architect. Like, your MBA alone is substantial. It's enough. You're enough. I think I finally believe that, but there was definitely a period of time I did not.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And I will tell you from experience, being older than you, although I'm licensed, I have also shifted my purpose from practice to serving. The more people you serve and the more difference you make, and you are making a huge difference in the work that you're doing, we're going to talk about that, that decision gets easier for you because, and it's so hard for me, the recognition that you're making a difference because you have the courage to pursue your purpose, even though it may not be what you originally planned, and it may not be what everybody else expected you to do, which is even harder. That when you realize and you look back and you connect the dots, all the people that you made a difference in their lives and all the people that are now impacted by the people that you impacted, it becomes hundreds of thousands of people that are affected because you made that decision.
I think so. I've definitely been reflecting recently on like, why was it so hard? And recently kind of was coming to peace with the idea that had I not gone through those experiences, I wouldn't have had the perspective to be able to serve people in this way. Because I know why women in their 20s and 30s struggle when they enter this profession, or because I served for management groups and I understand what the decisions that they're facing, how tough those are. I have that perspective now to help, the people that I'm trying to support through this work.
Let's take a quick break to say thank you to our sponsors for their support of this episode. Architects, listen up. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world and is going through a hard time, therapy can give you the tools to approach your life in a very different way. I know this community of small firm architects very well, and I see many of you struggling. That's why I reached out to this episode's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote. And by filling out just a few questions, BetterHelp can match you with a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in the show notes. It's betterhelp.com/architect. Just use that link, betterhelp.com/architect. Clicking that link helps support this podcast, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. So you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. If you need someone to talk to, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the show notes or visit betterhelp.com/architect. That's betterhelp.com/architect. Thank you to BetterHelp for supporting this podcast and for supporting our community of small firm architects. ARCAT's Spec Wizard is the tool that will help you save time writing specifications. Going through the manufacturer's specification line by line to find the right product leads to frustration and errors. And that's where Spec Wizard comes in. It's a free, patented tool that allows you to select products and options error-free and generate a 3-part specification in minutes. Go to arcat.com, that's ARCAT.com, and try Spec Wizard today. Please visit our sponsors today and thank them. Thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. And you had mentioned earlier that the work that you do is basically transitioning the profession, right? We are currently in transition in this profession. And it's my generation that is that bridge between the way it was and the way it's going to be, right? And you're there to help support those who want to get to where it's going to be. So talk about that a little bit. That's what Apostrophe does. Apostrophe helps firms get from the way it once was to the way it's going to be. Better models, modern models, right? Going from the historic way of architecture was practiced to the new way, the modern way of way architecture is being practiced in many different ways. So talk about that. Talk about what the mission and the vision of Apostrophe is.
So it's interesting because when I talk to architects, it's almost like an I Spy puzzle where I feel like I talk to some people and they can't see it at all. And then I talk to others and they're like, Janine, you are literally helping to change the profession for the better. So it really depends on your experience in the profession and if it was positive or if you had maybe a not so great time. So depending on your perspective on that, I think either my work speaks to you or I don't know if it does. Maybe it does. But it's essentially helping firms approach the management of their practice as a design problem. And so thinking about what are the historic models of how we're practicing, what are the possibilities given the new cultural context of workplace and emerging trends in different generations, and how can we as architects and designers and leaders start to modify things within our business model and our firm ecosystem to shift in new directions. And I will be frank that a lot of my work is really centered on people first rather than project. While I understand projects are important, by investing in your people to create better models to support them, I believe you get better outcomes on the projects.
And I think that is directly related to the way historically we practiced, which was project-based, to the new way that we must practice is people-based.
Exactly.
The entire society is changing that way. If you don't shift, you will be out of business. You have to focus on your people first.
And, we're experiencing so much compounding change at once. And I think through the work that we did on Practice Disrupted, we were trying to explore that the many layers of change that we're experiencing. It's on the technology front. It's on the cultural front. Now we're talking about AI, which is like a whole new level of the technology piece. But there are so many dimensions to change, and all firms are experiencing that downward pressure from external constraints. Like our clients are demanding things faster. They're more aggressive on requests and deliverables. And sometimes the fee piece is really hard to negotiate. And so from my perspective, rather than standing still on this, that there's an opportunity for firm leaders to think about those as design elements and how they start to design their practice. So we do this in a lot of different ways, but it usually is rooted around the people that are leading the practice, the culture of the firm, and the ways that they support their staff who are basically tasked with the deliverable of design and production of the project. So my generation, who a lot of us left, me included, sort of, I've got a foot in, a foot out.
You didn't leave because you're serving the profession.
Yes, I am. I am serving the profession, but sometimes I still feel like I'm on the outside because of the weird, like you're either an architect or you're not, or you're other. So sometimes I feel that in my day to day, but
As my 16-year-old daughter, almost 17-year-old daughter would say, that's a them problem.
that's a them problem. Yes, exactly. Anyway, I feel like what I know is happening, and I see this every day because of my friends in practice, they're absolutely being squashed in the middle of some really difficult demands in practice on projects. And it's like they get off one and they go right into the next. And it's that churn and burn mentality where we're all racing to generate enough fee to keep our businesses operational, to keep getting projects, to keep moving forward. But most architects don't have the luxury to slow down long enough to think about how to do this in a different way. And so I think that's where we come in. We are really that third party ally who's coming in and saying, hey, have you thought about doing this differently? Or here's an opportunity to support your team in a new way.
And I think what you do is critical because the way we've always done it is the way we've always done it because that's the way we've always done it, right? It's transferred from generation to generation. And unless we actively shift to change, it will be that way forever. Can you share an example of a client? You don't have to share names, but share some transition that you've helped a client go through so we can understand the type of work that you do.
Sure. First of all, I have projects at all scales, and I work with small firm architects all the way up to very large firms. The size of the firm doesn't matter. The issues are all the same. The scale of it is different, but the core pain points are very similar. We're experiencing a lot of change. We're trying to fill this talent gap in the industry because we've lost people. There's a challenge around knowledge transfer within firms and how to do it when we're so busy. And then the financial model creates a lot of barriers within what is feasible and how we can spend our time and money. And then there is a longstanding challenge around basic skills on business and teaching firm leaders how to run the business. So I have 3 firms, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and one in Hawaii, that all 3 of them went through ownership transitions where they were passing leadership to the second generation coming in behind founders who had basically launched the firm for 30 plus years. Those moments are so important for the leaders coming in to basically create the culture within the firm and help figure out how you're going to transfer responsibilities from the person that's been solely responsible to a new group that's learning how to be responsible. So we've worked with those 3 firms, and each of those design problems have looked different based on the number of leaders and their staff population and some of the specific pain points they're experiencing. But we were able to support them in figuring out their roles and responsibilities within that new leadership group, how to support their staff, how to move through the change that even in your best effort has unintentional moments of complication. Even when you try really hard to make it successful, there's going to be things that go bumpy. And now we've set them up under new leadership models. We're helping them establish new, basically, management practices within each of the firms. And they've all 3 had really amazing retreats that we've supported them on to support their staff and make sure their staff feel supported during that time of change. And so each of them are now growing in new directions, which we're really proud of.
Yeah, that's exciting. With a firm in transition like that, ownership transition, that is literally going from the old way of doing things to potentially the new way of doing things, right? They could just adopt the way it's always been, but it's a perfect opportunity to make the change to a new way of doing things. And that's very difficult because the transition in the first place is difficult. Just ownership transition is complicated. But then you're going to take this opportunity to help shift the culture, which is already embedded in a firm that's been around a long time. If it's valuable enough to transition, then it has an established culture, which then you are coming in and helping the new leadership encourage and cultivate a new culture to go into the future. Almost impossible to do without somebody dedicated like you to come in and look at everything fresh and provide them with some framework and some resources to be able to make that change.
Exactly. And inversely, we also are working with a couple of very small firms that are in startup mode. And so we're looking at it from like, this is a blank slate. Let's design it from the ground up. And actually, both of these firms are women owned. They want to do it differently. They want to come up with different approaches on how to run practices. And so in those instances, we really get to work with the owners to do it from scratch, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's exciting too. I'm glad that you're out there doing what you do. It's an important role. It's a role that we must have in order to get to the better place in this profession. The profession is in desperate need of change. And it is changing, but if we're not intentional about that change individually, as individual architects, we'll never get to where we want to go. And so I'm glad that you're out there doing the work that you do and helping the profession move on into this next phase of the profession. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I mean, when I started the business, I was concerned that there was going to be pushback, but I think I've been really pleasantly surprised by how many people, they want this bad enough that they're willing to invest in it, and they believe investing in it will lead to new futures. And so with each firm, I feel like our responsibility as a team of consultants working with the practices is to build these really great case studies around what's possible so that we can teach the rest of the industry what this looks like. I've had many architects ask me, so what is it you do? Because they want me to be more specific about the what. And it's hard to do because it's so individual to the firm, because it's a design problem and it's about mindset shift and it's about the specific variables within that practice that need to change.
Yeah. And it comes back to people first.
Mm-hmm.
The next generation of architects will come into this profession not only expecting that, but demanding it. It won't be an option for them. They are coming in as a very different mindset and very based in entrepreneurism.
Mm-hmm.
The next generation has been on TikTok and Instagram and iPads their entire lives and have seen people build businesses from scratch. Maybe not architecture businesses, but other businesses and some architecture businesses. And they just think that's the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we don't prepare a profession that will accept them and benefit from them and thrive because of them, our profession will go away. Simple as that. Some other profession will give them those opportunities. Some other industry will gladly step into our role, and our profession will slowly disappear.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a major motivation for me is when I work with these leaders who are kind of in that middle leadership group. They might not be in the firm ownership or leadership position, but they're leading on their projects day to day. They're like in the weeds. I worry about them leaving because I think that people can have really rewarding careers in this field. I'm pro keeping people in this field, but I think that to do so, we as leaders of our firms have to adjust some of our expectations and design new support systems around those people so that they can be successful in the climate that we exist in today, not how we were practicing 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but the demands that are being pushed onto us now. I think leaders at all levels, from firm leader and ownership down to staff entering the profession, all of them across every firm generally need more support. So how do we do that and what does it look like? And I think a lot of what we're doing is through training. We do retreats. We work on what I call strategy sprints, which are little mini workshops to get in there and quickly diagnose and come up with solutions. But we are basically trying, I feel like we're a design lab. Some of it's experimental, but a lot of it is rooted in diagnosing the problem and then problem solving. Very similar to what architects do, but just applied to the organization.
Right. So the architecture firm as a design problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As we wrap up here, Janine, let's leave them with one thing that they should focus on. What's one thing that a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow?
Well, first of all, you are likely overwhelmed. You have so many things that you're trying to manage in your brain that you may just be running from sunup to sundown, trying to keep your practice going. I think the most important things to think about include, number one, your ability to create space, quiet reflection time to do some self-reflection about you and how you're thinking about things. I think number two, sometimes you have to question your assumptions about things. We often jump to conclusions about things as humans where we think we're right. And sometimes we have to take the time to be reflective that the beliefs that we have aren't necessarily fact, but opinion. And number three, I think it's counterintuitive to believe that you have the time to give yourself more space to deal with things sometimes. But sometimes the most important thing is slowing down to fix the problem so you can speed up because you become more efficient and that ultimately leads you to better outcomes. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I think those are some tools that I use as a business owner and I try to teach to my clients.
Very helpful. Her name is Janine Chastain. You can learn more about Janine and Apostrophe Consulting at apostrophe.consulting. That's the URL, apostrophe.consulting. We'll have a link to it on the show notes. Janine, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story today. I think you inspired many, many people. Thank you for doing the work that you do at Apostrophe. It's critical. It's something that this profession must have in order to get to where we're going. The future of this profession is human, without a doubt. No matter what the technology advancements are, people will always want to work with other people. And the work that you do is critical in order for us to transition from the way it's always been to the way it's going to be. And thank you for coming by here today at Entre Architect Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for your friendship and all of your support over the years. You've been an incredible ally. So I'm so appreciative.
You're welcome. If you liked this episode of Entre Architect Podcast, please share a link to this episode with a friend. Either just click the share button or highlight the URL and send the link to this episode with a friend, because that's how Entre Architect has grown to serve thousands more architects just like you throughout the 10 plus years of Entre Architect. That's how we've grown, architect to architect. So I would love for you to share this episode and all the episodes with one friend every week. We'd love that. And thank you to our sponsors for this episode. We don't have an episode if there's no sponsors. So thank you to our sponsors. Links to those sponsors, which you should go visit and click, and all the resources that we discussed today for this specific episode, they are all available at entrearchitect.com/podcast. Every episode that we've recorded is there, entrearchitect.com/podcast. Go click the links to the sponsors and say hello. Entre Architect is a member of the Gabl Media podcast network. You should go visit that at gablmedia.com. That is the next evolution of interactive media and resources for the AEC community. You can now earn continuing education credits for listening to select episodes of this podcast, Entre Architect Podcast. Yes, AIA CEUs for listening to a podcast. It's there, and many other podcasts are there as well, and you can listen to all of them and get credit. Learn more about our program, Gabl Members Program, at the gablmedia.com/members website. That's GABL media.com/members. And if you are a small firm architect, join us today at Entre Architect Network. That is the worldwide organization for small firm entrepreneur architects. If you own your own architecture firm, you are an entrepreneur architect. You are an Entre Architect. With weekly live group business coaching, we have business coaching there, monthly live business training with AIA CEUs, 2 a month, so 24 AIA credits per year, including 12 of those are HSWs. We have them in the membership. Business resources, all the resources you need to run your business, special session webinars, mastermind groups, and a thriving community of small firm architects just like you. Hundreds of architects are there waiting for you to join. So we provide the support and encouragement you need to succeed as a small firm architect. I know that you haven't been trained as a business person when you launched your firm. That's what we do. Come learn how to run a business at Entre Architect Network. And today you can go join right now for free for 30 days at this link. entrearchitect.com/30 days will give you free 30 days for membership. Go check it out at entrearchitect.com/30 days, and I will see you there. Thank you for listening to this episode of Entre Architect Podcast. My name is Mark R. LePage, and I want you to remember 3 words: love, learn, share. Have a great day.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gabl Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gabl Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gabl Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gabl Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark R. LePage, founder of Entre Architect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In Season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.